Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment. We're going to be recording the event, and we will start the recording right now. So welcome, everyone, to the My Employment Options webinar, Resumes That Get You Hired. We're excited to have each and every one of you here, and we have lots to share about the topic and our company as well. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sarah Lind, and I'm one of the presenters today. First, let me mention some quick technical reminders. All of the attendees today are in listen-only mode automatically when joining Zoom. That means your audio and video are off so that everyone can focus on the presentation slides. You can also just listen in even if you cannot see the slides. Closed captioning is available today. If you prefer to turn this feature on, you can go to your Zoom toolbar, click the Show Captions CC button. Again, that is click the Show Captions CC button. If you decide later that you would like to turn off the closed captioning, you simply click the Close Captions CC button on the Zoom toolbar to turn off this feature. So let me take a moment to tell you more about My Employment Options, or MEO for short. My Employment Options is an authorized employment network in Social Security's Ticket to Work program. This is a free federal program. Our company provides services, yes, that are free for both work at home and on-site employment job seekers who are ages 18 through 64 and who live in one of the 48 continental states and Washington, D.C., and who receive SSDI or SSI Social Security benefits, disability benefits, and who want to return to the workforce and give it a go with working again. Our events are open to our clients and also the general public. So if you're not on SSDI or SSI, that's okay. The tips that we share can help any job seeker. Our company has over 20 years of expertise. We have longstanding partnerships with both work at home and community employers. Our clients, when people come on board with us, they're assigned to a personal employment counselor who works with them one-on-one. We also have a certified benefits specialist on staff to help our clients with benefits-related questions. Many of our own staff have personally used the Ticket to Work program, and we're known for practicing the personal touch and being very responsive. So our presentation today is Resumes That Get You Hired. And on our next slide, I'll tell you more about the topics that we will be covering. We'll be starting with talking about how resumes can open doors to an interview, because that's what will get you hired. What the current resume trends are, including the focus on AI in 2025, how to create a successful resume for working at home, and how to create a resume for community employment. We also will talk about how to address gaps in employment and tips for changing careers. So my partner in crime, my co-presenter, Tina Gagne, is a community employment counselor with Employment Options since 2022. She assists clients in finding employment in their communities. Tina is passionate about helping others with disabilities, and she is very familiar with the program, the Ticket to Work program, being a participant in the program herself. I'm Sarah Lind. I'm a senior community employment counselor. I'm dedicated to helping clients find good job matches and then advancing in their careers. I've been with Employment Options now for more than 14 years. So your resume will help you to get hired by landing you an interview. That is its major purpose. Your resume needs to demonstrate that you're a great candidate for the position that you're applying for. And we've got trends and tips that will help you get noticed and help you to get hired. Your resume needs to appeal to those applicant tracking systems that scan resumes and appeal to humans who will actually read your resume. Stay throughout the presentation for resources that have great resume tools as well as templates. So, one of the big trends on what's new is artificial intelligence, known as AI. AI has quickly become the go-to for writing a variety of things, including marketing content, blogs, and yes, resumes. It's amazing how well this tool can write. However, it will not replace human abilities and the personal touch. There are a number of AI platforms, including ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Perplexity. ChatGPT is pretty well known, and what's wonderful is it's customizable, and it's just a matter of learning how to use it. There's lots of tutorials out there on how to customize things and make it your own. You will need to carefully review your resume that AI built and make changes and corrections as needed. And the AI tools are wonderful in that they improve, and so they actually are keeping up with resume trends probably even better than we can. Now, some of the positives, the pros of using AI. Most AI tools are user-friendly. You don't have to be a tech genius or a rocket scientist to use them. And as I mentioned, you can customize many of the platforms. Um, Using AI can help your resume just sail through those applicant tracking systems, also known as ATS, because it uses the keywords that recruiters are looking for. Um, and we'll talk more about AI and the applicant tracking systems later in our presentation. AI can help your resume be more polished by correcting grammatical mistakes and those not so lovely typographical errors. So some of the downsides of using AI. AI resumes may sound generic and lack a unique personality that's you. AI does recognize patterns. So if your individual work experience is different from what it recognizes, AI may not really be able to figure out how to describe what you've done. Remember, employers want to hire you, not an AI robot. So it's important to carefully read an AI-generated resume and fix any of the problems, and that will help you to get hired. It's not perfect. It can reduce errors, but it also can add mistakes. You definitely have to pay attention. Digital resumes, that's another trend. Digital resumes can be accessed online by hiring staff and or by people that you provide access to, perhaps during the application process. There are public platforms like LinkedIn. You can set up your own personal website or even set up an online portfolio. These are examples. One of our resource slides later in the presentation will share links that has great information and tips on how to use these. Multiple digital resumes can be customized for specific positions. And you also want to look for specialized digital resume builders. So what's a actually continuing trend, but even more so, is having the emphasis on the skills and achievements and the value that you're going to bring to the employer. So this focus has shifted significantly towards highlighting specific skills and measurable achievements rather than just listing your previous job responsibilities. So you're going to start, and we'll show you a little bit more about how to do this. We're going to start with your summary, focusing on your relevant skills and achievements, and then you're going to match your skills, experience, and qualifications with the language of the job posting and tailor your resume to customize it for the identified job that you're applying for. Now, Tina will talk about chronological rather than functional formats of resumes.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be with you today. People often ask about functional and chronological resume formats. A chronological format shows the jobs you have held, how long, and the responsibilities in chronological order, starting in your experience or work history section, with your most recent job or current job, then going back from there. The functional resume has less emphasis on your work history and instead shows your skills front and center. What do employers say about chronological rather than the functional format? We've done extensive research on this and all the information in our presentation, and the vote is in. Surveys have said a chronological format is preferred by employers, and some recruiters greatly dislike the functional format. So the examples we're going to show you today are from the chronological format. Your resume content is the most important. You want to highlight your knowledge, skills, and abilities that make you a great candidate. Bigger isn't always better. You want your resume to be well organized. Employers may end up tossing your resume in the trash if it is cluttered and difficult to read. On average, employers spend about 6 to 7 seconds to initially scan a resume. We have some great tips coming up to help you set up your resume, including links to websites and resources. Typical work from home recruiters look for a one-page resume. You want to keep your resume short and sweet using pertinent information. That should help reach your goal. For higher level positions, 2 pages resume may be needed. The automatic tracking system, which Sarah mentioned earlier, also known as the ATS, will scan the resume and can detect longer resume. Our goal is to make your resume as easy on the eyes as possible, so streamline your resume if it's longer than 2 pages. The font size on your resume should be 10 to 12 point. Anything smaller than 10 makes it very difficult to read. You also don't want to use a font that is too large as it will take up valuable space. The only exception to use a larger font size is for your name in the header, but no more than 16-point font size. Margins usually default to 1 inch, which can be changed to keep your resume to 1 page, but less than a half inch looks cramped. You want to keep your resume modern and updated. If a font is not specified, use fonts such as Arial, Calibri, or Georgia rather than an outdated font like Times New Roman. Use the same font throughout your resume and use the color black. Blue isn't easy to read and doesn't print well, and red is too bold. You can also use the control key plus the A key to highlight and change throughout the entire document. For your section headings, use all capitals and bold font. Those section headings include your skills, experience, and education. Keep your headings and bullet points neat and organized. This is very important for a successful resume. Use bullets to highlight skills, job responsibilities, and accomplishments. Avoid using graphics, logos, charts, tables, and columns. This will disrupt the ATS's ability to read text. To keep your resume decluttered, do not underline the headings or have a colon. Align the heading section on the left margin. The reason for doing that is because people read from left to right. And lastly, the section headings that are centered break up the reading flow.
So the building blocks of your resume start with having your name and your contact information front and center on your resume. Will not necessarily center. Whether you put that on the left margin or actually center it depends on your preference. Start with your name in all caps and bold, like we're showing here. And as Tina mentioned, you can have your name a little bit larger as a heading there, but not too much larger. You don't want it to stand up too much or take up too much valuable space. In this example, it's actually about 2 point sizes larger. Your contact information can also be across a line across the page on one line so that saves space and it keeps your resume streamlined. We have an example near the end of the presentation that actually shows all this. Um, you may notice here where we're showing just the city and the state and sometimes the zip code rather than having a full street address. If you're concerned about having your address on your resume, you can merely show it like this, and that way it eliminates security concerns about your personal information. Now, with regard to your email address, because most employers these days will be reaching out by email rather than a phone call, you do want to set up a separate email for employment. You want to make sure that that email address presents you professionally. Now, having that email, a separate email designated for employment, helps you to ensure that you're not going to miss any important communication from employers. You don't want to miss that interview invite or a job offer. Regarding Gmail, it's viewed as more professional and tech savvy than AOL, Yahoo, and Hotmail way back in the day. So research has shown that it is preferred by recruiters who may judge your technical relevancy on the email host that you use. And we've given an example here of an inappropriate email address, rockerchick4@gmail.com. You may want to just use some type of variation of your name, like your first initial, last name. Avoid using a number that would indicate any part of your date of birth. I encourage people to use, perhaps if they need to put in a number, their area code for their phone number. That works real well. Now, as far as the phone do's and don'ts, the big do, D-O, ensure your phone number is correct. You can even call yourself. When I'm helping clients with resumes, I do that as soon as we've got the resume set up to make sure if there was any typing involved, it's not incorrect. You want to make sure that the employers can reach you because you won't get any callbacks with an incorrect phone number. Also, be sure that you have an appropriate message on your voicemail so that it sounds professional. You want to avoid things like inappropriate music, messages by your grade school child, or anything that's overly religious or political. That may be something that's important to you, but during your job search, put that on hold. Go ahead and set up a new outgoing message and everything. So remember to do that. This will help you to get hired. So the big question that sometimes people ask is, and I see too, that people are still using an objective on their resume. We've extensively researched this to provide you with current information, and an objective is no longer essential for a resume. The experts in the career fields and hiring managers, hiring recruiters say that having an objective is unnecessary and outdated. So instead, using a summary that will introduce you to the employer is the way to go. And we'll talk about this more on the next slide. So what is a summary? Sometimes people call it a profile or by other names, but it does summarize who you are, and it is an introduction. It's a statement of about 3 to 4 sentences. And yes, these are actual complete sentences, so there will be punctuation involved there. And it highlights your experience and your qualifications to the employer. A summary that's well written will capture the employer's attention and demonstrate to them that you are a great candidate. And specifically, it represents you for the type of job that you've identified that you're applying for. This is the major part of your resume that you're going to change up when you're applying for different types of positions. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth coming up. So, as you can see in this little graphic here, resume, blah, blah, blah. When I saw that, I thought, that is so perfect. That is the employer's attitude and what they're thinking. If your summary doesn't focus on their needs, or if it's too wordy and it doesn't appeal to them, and we want to make sure that you capture the employer's attention. So we're going to give you some good examples on how to write a compelling summary that's going to help you to get hired. And here's an example. Most of the examples that we use throughout our presentation are actual examples from resumes. This one, I did kind of work it up a little bit just to make a good presentation here. But I probably started as a base one of my clients' resumes. So here we've got someone introducing themselves as self-motivated and results-oriented customer service professional with 5 years experience enhancing customer relationships, increased customer retention by 33% through collaborative service delivery and problem resolution, improved sales by 25% through consultative strategies. And you notice the word summary is capitalized in this example because it is the section heading. And again, you're using complete sentences, so you want to have periods at the end of those sentences. And notice how the experience is emphasized along with the accomplishments that are numbers. So they've been quantified. We're showing how successful this person was and what the level of their responsibilities were and what they did. We've got some more examples coming up too. And now back to Tina.
Thank you, Sarah. We are now going to go over the skills and qualifications section. We recommend that you use at least 4 bullet points that match the of 40 words per minute. You list your ability to 40 words per minute within your skill set. And remember, use descriptive and keywords to catch the applicant tracking system and the employer's attention. Because recruiters skim to find the keywords that match what is in the post and the job description. Here is an example of bullet points with descriptive words under the skills and qualifications section. Excellent communication skills, outstanding compliant resolution, high volume call center experience, and accurate typing skills, 40 words per minute. On the next slide, we will take a look at the employment experience. For the employment experience section, lead with your job title to emphasize experience. Placing dates to the right, but not to the right margin, makes them less prominent, especially if there are gaps. Recruiters are mainly interested in recent work history, generally nothing over 10 years old because it becomes too long or it may invite age discrimination. Work from home resumes, especially, must have relevant customer service experience, even for an entry-level position. Work from home employers require a minimum of 6 months to a year of any type of customer service. Also, in the experience section, be sure to list between 3 to 5 job duties, responsibilities, or achievements under each employer. Use action words like manage, initiated, or coordinated rather than phrases like responsible for. Include the most relevant experience that is needed for the position you're applying for. If you add too many bullets with the information that is not helpful, your resume will soon become cluttered.
So while you're putting in that information, you can use italics to highlight your achievements. That helps them to stand out. You want to show the employers how well you've done in your previous positions. You can use numbers to quantify your accomplishments whenever possible, such as if you exceeded quotas. Most jobs have some type of quotas, how much you are able to accomplish or produce, and or increase sales, save the company money. As far as the scope of responsibilities, you want to show and tell the employers, your prospective employers, how many people you supervised. If you process payroll, how large was that payroll? How many people were you doing that for? And on the next slide, we have some actual examples. So now this comes in the employment experience section where you're showing your responsibilities and achievements under each of your employment, each of your jobs there. So here we're showing we're showing the employment information in two lines. It can be one line across to save space. If you don't have a lot of experience, this is a way to fill up that one-page resume and make it look like you have more, as well as using a larger type font up to 12 on there. So start with your job title. You want to lead with that because that represents what you did. And for this person, payroll specialist, that says a lot and can get an employer's attention if that's what they're looking for. And especially those all important applicant tracking systems can pick up on the words such as payroll. Another reason to have the job information on two lines is, again, if you don't have a lot of experience. Now, this person had some good experience. They worked there from 2019 to 2023. And notice that the dates are on the right, not standing out, hanging out there all by themselves, especially if there's gaps in employment, that can bring attention to that. So this person, this client of mine, actually had processed payroll for over 200 employees for a large Coca-Cola distributing company. And while she was there, she streamlined payroll processes, which reduced costs. And we put in a number there, 40%. So when you're in your jobs, pay attention to what you've accomplished for future reference when you're updating your resume. So one thing that people sometimes will do is separate out if they've had two positions with the same company. And that can actually look like job hopping if they've got that they worked as, started in one position and then worked in another position. So, what you want to do with those two positions is to combine them under that one company name. And this is usually the only reason to put the company name first. And I'm going to show you an example on the next slide. So, this person worked for a company, XYZ Corporation, and we're showing, city, state. This is just an example. But a lot of this information was taken from one of my clients. And so this person had started out as a customer service representative. And while they were there, they kind of worked their way into a lead position where they were training new representatives in sales techniques. And you can see the accomplishment in that first position where they converted 96% of the clients to gold accounts, kind of like upselling. And then they were promoted to account manager within 6 months based on their accomplishments and wound up managing 35 client accounts and assisted clients in onboarding and utilizing the technology that they were representing. So when you're showing employment experience, you want to have just your most relevant experience for the identified jobs, typically only going back as far as 10 years. If you have prior relevant experience, and relevant being the key word here, you can add a section for that where you're going to summarize your experience, but without the dates and show the total number of years experience. This information is for community employment. Work from home employers typically want more recent experience. And we're going to be showing an example of how to use this prior relevant experience section towards the end of our presentation. And it literally did help one of my clients to get hired in her dream job. Now back to Tina.
Thank you, Sarah. Here are some other tips when composing with the education section of your resume. Typically, a high school diploma is listed if it's a requirement for the job in lieu of advanced education or training. Remember to not list the year you graduated from high school, college, or any education or training program. This prevents ageism discrimination. Use training or certifications that are related to jobs you're applying for. For example, if you completed a real estate program, but your goal is the medical field, you don't need that information. On the next slide, we have an example of a person who is still attending college. Bachelor of Science, Business Management, University of Phoenix, projected graduation is May 2025. So if you're still working on a college degree, show when you expect to receive it. As mentioned before, on the education section, you do want to include any current applicable certifications. Former licenses or certifications are okay to use on a resume since it would emphasize your experience within the field. Be mindful that there is a huge difference between receiving a certificate from completing a training or earning a certificate from an educational program. You need to make sure you are labeling your distinctions accurately, not representing yourself in any way. Most resumes aren't initially seen by human eyes. Your resume is first processed by an applicant tracking system. As mentioned previously, the ATS looks for keywords and phrases on your resume that match the job description that you applied for. ATSs are used to streamline and optimize the hiring process. Research shows that over 90% of businesses are using applicant tracking system software. About 80% of employers have reported they are losing out on highly qualified candidates because they aren't submitted ATS-friendly resumes. They are not including criteria or keywords that the ATS is programmed to look for. The job posting is where you'll locate the keywords to include in your resume. Analyze a job posting to identify job requirement keywords. Use those exact terms in your resume. Any variation from that written word in the job posting may be dismissed. At the end of this presentation, there is an example of a job posting to demonstrate identifying keywords and an example resume with corresponding keywords. We are now going to go over some work from home resume tips. Work from home employers are looking for well-rounded candidates with a mix of skill sets, so you need a resume that gets you noticed. Show skills throughout your resume that emphasize your experience that aligns with the keywords in the job posting. These skill sets typically fall into three categories: soft, hard, and transferable skills. And here are some examples. Soft skills reflect your work experience, performance, and character traits. Hard skills are technical skills you can learn to pick up or through practice, training, and experience. Transfer skills move with you as you advance to new positions, employers, or even different career paths. Remember to always edit your resume for grammar and spelling, and have a friend, mentor, or family member give it a review.
So your resume space is valuable. So we've talked about, keeping it relevant, keeping it clean, and utilizing keywords. One thing that you want to do as well is to eliminate clutter and unnecessary information, outdated information. And some examples of this are references available upon request. That's no longer needed. Employers know that. And yes, they will request the references if needed or wanted. So be sure to, if you have that on your resume, be sure to take that off. There's no need as well to label your phone number or your email addresses. So go ahead and take those words off. It's very obvious what a phone number looks like, and employers are smart enough to recognize what an email address is. If they can't figure that out, you probably don't want to work for them. So again, employers may only spend less than 10 seconds to determine if you're a good fit. So don't make them wade through all this unnecessary information. Make every second count. To help minimize the job hopper image, you can take several short-term, temporary, or seasonal jobs and combine them into one employment section. You don't want to discount a job, even if it was short-term, if you acquired important skills or experience. Most work from home employers want to see any amount of remote experience. If a job was seasonal, it may be a good idea to show that next to the job title so employers can see so that they're really going to understand the reason that that job was short term. And there's other ways that you can label short term jobs as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in our presentation. But on the next slide, I've got an example of how the short-term jobs were combined into a category of covering hospitality positions, which have a lot of important transferable skills, like Tina mentioned, including customer service, scheduling things, coordinating with other staff, resolving issues, preparing reports. So there's a lot here. Now, this actually is an example from one of my clients who had worked in hospitality positions, and we were able to use this resume. She parlayed that to get hired in a position working for handling tickets for incoming and things that needed to be handled at a what do you call it? Oh, an amusement park, and then went on to a tech support position from there, which was actually her goal. And so she wound up in that help desk support position, making much better pay than she did in the hospitality jobs. So some more tips on minimizing the job hopper image. Um, so as we mentioned, different positions may be needed for various types of positions. Um, and so it's important to position focus your resume for the job that you're applying for. And as I mentioned earlier, the summary section as well as your skill section, those are places to change up your resume to show that you have the ability and the experience for the positions identified. And remember to use the keywords from the identified job postings. This will help your resume to get noticed and help you to get hired. One mistake I sometimes see is that people will mix up the present tense and past tense on their job responsibilities. And this is where it's going to show. So only your current job is written in the present tense. And here's some examples: answer phones and assist customers, accurately enter customer orders, and then for previous work experience on down the line. And again, you don't want to go back too far, but any past jobs would be in past tense, such as resolved billing issues efficiently, maintained accurate client databases. To help employers understand what you've done, you want to clearly spell out acronyms. That's that alphabet soup. And also pay attention when using words that are specific to a job field. So that could be perhaps slang or jargon for that job field. And also, you want to identify the type of software you use. And here's some examples so that you can let the employers know what you did. And again, these can be transferable skills. Um, so this person ensured compliance with HIPAA, and that's that Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act that is so important to have an understanding of and training with in the healthcare field. And for computer skills, you want to state which of the programs you've actually used. And this person, again, in the healthcare field, used a program called Epic, which is an EMR or electronic medical records. And you sometimes will see various types of electronic health records as well. So you want to give them an idea of what that is because that's very transferable. If you know one type of EMR, you typically can pick up pretty easily on another type that the employer is using. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying never say never, because I've got an example coming up that is a little bit different from what we're stating here. But in most cases, if you're an individual with a disability, you don't want to disclose that on your resume for most positions. Now, the Americans with Disability Act, which has been on the books and a law for some time now, it's on your side. that you don't have to disclose your disability. I've sometimes had clients state, oh, well, I need to be honest, I need to tell them. Well, you're focusing on what you can do, what you are going to bring to the table to the employer. So there's no need to do that. And up front, before you actually get hired and on the job, you typically do not know if you're going to need any kind of accommodations. So you don't want to disclose that up front because while it is illegal, discrimination still does exist. Now, people who are, and we welcome you if you're eligible for our services to become a client, and we provide our clients with support and further knowledge about how to protect yourself from discrimination. And once you start working, to request accommodations if needed.
So, how do we address gaps in employment? So that's a very common question that we get from our clients pretty much almost every day. Resume gaps are fairly common, especially for those who have a disability. But on a good note, they don't carry the stigma they used to, but hiring managers do want to know what you've been up to. So you should address any gaps in employment if you've been out of work for over a year. Just so you know, when you're a client with MEO, your employment counselor will help you address this issue or any others you may have. So one of the ways to address gaps in employment is ask yourself, have you spent time volunteering as a homemaker, helping with family businesses, or caring for a family member? Also, internships, freelance work, apprenticeships, and taking classes are all good examples on how to demonstrate how you spent your time and the value you'll bring to the position. For individuals who've been on a sabbatical, they can also include this time on their resume. We are now going to look at the next slide for an example of household manager from 2019 to 2025. On this slide, we're using the example of a caretaker or homemaker to fill in the gap of employment. We use a job title, household manager, between the years of 2019 through 2025. The bullet shows skills in project management, time management, and independence. Notice only the years 2019 through 2025 are used to help eliminate gaps in time. Sarah will now provide more tips for gaps in employment.
Thanks, Tina. And, we've mentioned a couple of times here, but I do want to bring your attention back to the things that Tina was talking about are transferable skills. And so always be mindful of the things that you did and what you learned and how you can use that in a future job. So that's so very important. Okay, so what about volunteering or internship experience? And I highly recommend doing volunteering, and it counts. The majority of employers do take that into consideration, and we're going to show you how you can, indicate that on your resume. The federal government definitely counts unpaid experience, volunteer experience, if it's relevant for the job that you're applying for. And there's no need to show that this was unpaid work. It's work and it is experience. It's not necessarily employment if you weren't paid for it, but it is experience, and that's important. So, again, this information, we do research, and so, we know this, and definitely federal job announcements do include, wanting to know about internships and things. And here's a good example of someone who was an intern, and these are typically unpaid, although we're seeing more and more paid internships, which is wonderful to be able to earn while you learn, so to speak, and put those theories that you have been studying in college to good use on the job. So this person was a medical researcher, and the intern is shown there to demonstrate the reason why it was a short-term position working at the University Medical Center in New York. And they assisted in planning a research study and recruited and interviewed study participants So this shows some good organizational and people skills that are so important and those transferable skills that employers are looking for. So now we'll talk about career changes. And on your resume, you want to emphasize those knowledge, skills, and abilities, all that education that you can utilize in your new career. So you can learn the language of your new career, start studying that career field, and do a lot online to do that. And on the next slide, we're going to talk about some ways in which to do that. So you want to include keywords that are relevant to the field that you're wanting to go into in your resume. And we've talked about transferable skills and how to find them, how to identify them. And we're going to have some more examples on how to actually use them in your resume. And I'm the kind of person I'm always like, put your best foot forward. So always put your strongest points first on your resume. In those bullet points where you're describing your skills in the skills section or your responsibilities under the jobs or the experience that you have through volunteering or internship, always put the first things, the strongest points. So here we've got an example of someone who worked in a restaurant, even a fast food place, will gain experience in customer service, solving problems, and possibly even sales, such as, and here's some examples, provides prompt attentive service, resolves issues with orders, upsells additional menu items. Would you like to make that a combo? Would you like fries with that? And so these are important skills that are needed in customer service positions. For example, cable internet companies that offer bundles. And it really can save customers money when you offer them. So you don't have to be pushy. Just a little bit of soft upselling can help you to do a good job and advance in your career. Now we're going to talk about keywords.
So here we have an example of job description keywords. This is for a position for a remote customer service representative. So if you look at the job post states, a requirement for a minimum of 1+ years of call center experience. If you have at least 1 year of experience, be sure to include the number of years on your resume. Always read through the job description to find the keywords and phrases. So this is an example of a work from home resume. The individual has 4 years of customer service experience with which they demonstrate in the opening of their summary. The position they're applying for, from the previous slide, remote customer service representative, requires at least 1 year of customer service experience. The summary also addresses other requirements from the posting using keywords such as problem solving, communication skills, and resolving customer issues. Other qualifications and requirement keywords from the job posting can be found under work experience, education section, such as managing a high call volume, proficient in Microsoft Office, and high school diploma. Please note that the resumes on the slides today appear smaller than they actually look. These resumes are 11-point font, while they're set up on 2 slides or actually 1 page. Now, Sarah will represent a resume example for the jobs in the community.
Thanks, Tina. And one thing that I'd like to point out is there are some new things that these are actual resumes from actual clients, and we made some changes as we were learning some new things about resumes. And one of the things that's important to note is how we use for the bullet points for the skills and competencies is they're just short and sweet: communication skills, organization skills, process improvement, presentation development, and budget management. Um, And here you can see under one heading, summary and skills, that we combined their summary describing their information and also, what their accomplishments were. And that's so very important. Um, and under the employment experience, we've got some information there following, what we've been describing to you on what they've done. And on the next slide, we've got a continuation of this community job employment resume. And here is the client that I spoke about earlier who had prior relevant experience in a medical center who wanted to apply for a job. And it was prior to the last job listed on her resume. So, and there would have been a gap there if we had gone back. So we merely we showed it by in this prior relevant experience section and showed what she did with the number of years. She worked for a total of 3 years for that organization. Um, One thing I wanted to point out back on Tina's example is this person had taken, yeah, we can go back and show it, under the education. Coursera is a great way to pick up free courses, including the Microsoft 365, which is the whole suite of Microsoft these days. So, and that's important. As you gain more knowledge, you want to be sure to include that. And that's a great thing to do while you're in between jobs. Let's go back to school online. And now we've got some great, thank you for showing all those examples. Now we've got some great tips and resources.
Thanks, Sarah. So we actually have 3 links here that will direct you to AI Resume Builder sites. Please note that we do not endorse these sites, but they may be very good examples that could be helpful to you. Teal HQ, Live Career, and My Perfect Resume. On the next slide, we have additional links. These provide further information on how to use the ATS Friendly Resume, use resume keywords, and create a LinkedIn profile. Top Resume, My Perfect Resume, and LinkedIn. Before we get to the Q&A portion, we want to share with you how you can apply with us. If you receive SSDI or SSI, please visit our website, myemploymentoptions.com. Click on the large yellow Apply Now button and fill out the application. When you become a client with us, you're assigned an employment counselor and you'll receive personalized services that include resume creation and customization, job search assistance, interview preparation, and benefits counseling. If you're already a client and have questions, please reach out to your employment counselor. If you have questions about job resources or other questions, please email Lori Adler at ladler@myemploymentoptions.com. We know that some of you may not be receiving SSDI or SSI disability, or you may not qualify for our free services through the Ticket to Work program. So we want to share some other resources with you as well. Ask MEO is our free referral resource division. It was created during the pandemic to help job seekers who are experiencing employment challenges and who do not receive SSI or SSDI. You can schedule a free 15-minute employment assessment call with a resource specialist, and afterwards, based on the call, helpful resources can be emailed to you. Another resource is available that can be found on our website when you hover over resources at the top and then click on helpful links and resources. We will be sending attendees a follow-up email in about 2 weeks, which includes the links in today's webinar. For job seekers who may not be on SSDI or SSI, we also wanted to make you aware about one of our other divisions, MEO Staffing. MEO Staffing is our full-service staffing agency that provides comprehensive nationwide job counseling and retention services. MEO Staffing also partners with national employers to help hire a more diverse workforce and are seeking new employer partnerships. You can learn more at meostaffing.com. We would love to connect with you on social media. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We share about free events, hot jobs, industry news, tips, and more. And now we have a few questions that you submitted that were not answered in our presentation. The first question comes from Carrie. She asked, how do you convey that you're looking to relocate in order to be considered over other companies' local applicants? That's a great question. To convey your intention to relocate and stand out from local applicants, explicitly state in your cover letter or resume that you're actively seeking a relocation opportunity to the company's location. You should include in the cover letter why you want a job in their location, as well as stating that you understand that no relocation help will be provided. The next question I have is from Patricia. Patricia wants to know, how do you avoid age discrimination? This is a very common question. To avoid age discrimination, your employment history should focus in the last 10 years. Jobs from 20 years ago have little relevance in hiring managers. Leave off your college graduation date. Use Gmail, old-fashioned emails like Hotmail, Yahoo, or AOL. Suggest you're low tech and not up to date with current trends. Be mindful of the technology you mention. Only advertise your software and skills that need it and are valued now. So this is the end to my portion of the webinar. I want to thank everyone for attending today. I'd like to express also a huge thanks to Sarah Lynn for being such a gracious and supportive co-host, and many thanks to our behind-the-scene team, Victor, Asaf, Lori, and Pam. I'd like you to know that MEO is a team that I am very proud to be part of, and I hope you join us.
Thanks, Tina. That's so heartfelt. And every time you and I get together, I recognize something even more awesome about you. So we do make a great team. Okay, I've got two more Q&As before we wrap up. And the next one's a really good one, so stay tuned. But Sheila asked, how do you polish your resume if you don't have much work experience? We touched on this earlier, but I would like to talk about emphasizing what you've learned through the work experience that you have. Um, if you don't currently have any experience or coursework, you might want to volunteer, do some volunteering. And you can show in your summary and skills section, as well as your job responsibilities, under your education, if you have specific coursework that demonstrates that you have that knowledge that's relevant for the job you've identified, you want to show that. So underneath your any kind of degree or a diploma or coursework, show relevant coursework, and then list out a few things, particularly if there's some key things that the employer is looking for. Take those online courses to gain knowledge. As we mentioned, there's lots of free courses online. And I've got one more question and answer. I had to take this one. Leah wanted to know, how can you write a resume for a person with a disability to highlight their disability as an asset? And again, discrimination exists, so we typically avoid disclosing the disability. However, it's actually needed for certain types of jobs with certain employers. There is a category of employment, a job field called peer counseling, and that is people who have lived experience that can help people with mental health disorders or substance abuse disorders, or who even have been incarcerated. Um, Unfortunately, and I attended some seminars recently about how many people who are incarcerated have disabilities. So actually having that experience can be an asset for certain types of employment. Also, people with a certain type of disability that's neurodiversity. There are employers who are specifically looking for that. Um, it gives special consideration. There's neurodiversity gives people the ability to think, learn, and process information differently, and helps them in a variety of jobs. So you want to research the jobs that you're looking into. One thing I want to mention, yes, overcoming a disability is a wonderful thing and it's a skill, but everyone has challenges in their life. So that in and of itself is not necessarily a reason to mention disability on your resume. And so That sums up our presentation for today, our webinar event. Thank you again, everyone, for attending. We hope that the information that we presented was helpful to help you to get hired. Watch for follow-up email within about 2 weeks that will have the presentation slides and working links, as well as the audio podcasting from today, so you can listen back to it. Thanks again. Have a great day and best wishes.